I'm going to ask you for just a minute to put your phones and your notebooks down and join me. Okay, if your company has executives, put your left hand up in the air. If your company has employees, put your right hand up in the air. Now use both of your hands to give yourselves a round of applause because you stayed for the last session of the day. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about those two groups of people today as we uncover how to unmute the human voices behind your brand. And before we dive into the actual content and to my role in financial services, I want to introduce you to somebody else. And I need a clicker to be able to do that. Is it? It is not. Sorry about that, guys. Awesome. Ooh, thank you so much. All right, so I want to introduce you to somebody else, and I call him my alter ego. His name is Coach Jake. So back home in Indianapolis, about 600 members of Orange Theory Fitness know me as their group fitness coach. So I also work in financial services, but this is a super fun other side of me. And I want to tell you a little bit about my journey there. So I started 6 years ago with Orange Theory. It's a combination of running, rowing, weightlifting, if you're not familiar, in group fitness setting. And I started that journey and had kind of a remarkable transformation in my health, and I decided that I wanted to be able to be that person that was motivating and mentoring other people along the way like people had done for me. So I started the process, and it was a seemingly simple process. You needed a national certification, which I was able to do online, get a little bit of experience. I worked at our local YMCA, and then go through their proprietary onboarding process. And none of it was super hard. Honestly, I was surprised because I don't come from a fitness background. I never played sports, anything like that. So I kind of expected that to be the hard part. So I remember the day that they gave me the microphone for the first time. It was time for my first class, and I was really, really excited about this. I've been a public speaker. I've been so extroverted my entire life. I was like, this is it. I finally made it. I'm so excited right now. And then there were 40 people staring back at me. These people are all different ages, from high schoolers to like senior citizens looking back, people that learn in different ways. They're all just staring at me, expecting me to tell them what to do. And in that moment, I realized something really important. I had spent my entire time studying to do this, practicing what to say. But what I hadn't spent a lot of time on was practicing how to say it. So I would like to argue today that a lot of people in your financial services company, your bank or your credit union, might feel the same way that I felt in that moment. Because I knew the muscles, I knew the template, I knew the movement patterns, I knew what to say. But when I stood there with the microphone and looked back at all those people, I just didn't know how to say it. So I'm going to ask you to put on a little bit of a different hat than you've probably worn over the last 2 days, and think with me for the next 25 minutes or so about how you might be able to be a mentor for some of your staff in learning how to deliver messages. Much like me, your staff knows your products, your services, your members or customers, and I knew the muscles, the movements, and the templates. But they likely want to go out and they want to deliver your brand story in the market, but they might just not know how. So you might be able, rather than spending more money on all kinds of other things, you know, the ads that we've talked about, you might be able to instead empower your employees to go use the channels they already have to tell your story in a really effective way. So let's talk about how we might do that. I believe that there's 3 voices in any organization, and it starts with your brand voice. But these voices can be supported by your executives. We talked about that. Everybody in this room has some executives, right? And by your employees. That's the largest group of people in your organization. Your brand's voice is the foundation for everything that you do. It's always going to be your biggest, loudest voice. It sets the tone for everything you do. It as your baseline for consistency. It's what establishes your values and your brand's personality. Now, your executive voices can play a little bit of a different role. So they're kind of bridging the strategy side and the cultural side. They're building trust with your partners, your employees, your future employees, and they just bring this human perspective to it as they talk about your brand and your story. And finally, your employees. If you're doing things right, they should be your biggest cheerleaders, your biggest fans, and they can help extend the reach of your message. And they make your story really real, right? These people are the ones that are hearing the stories of, hey, I don't know what my credit score means, and these people are able to guide them through it. Or, hey, I'm having a really hard time making my mortgage payment, and they're able to make that solution for your member or customer. So they are closest to your real brand story. And if you give them the resources they need, they can help you share it. The reality is, as we think about all of the AI that we've talked about in the world and all the influencers that are out there, people want to hear from people, and not just any people. You know, anytime that I get on Instagram anymore, it's like I barely even see what my friends have to post because there's so many ads and so many influencers and all these things that get in the way. And the reality is I trust my friends, I trust my family, and I want to see the stories of what they're doing. So I want to talk a little bit about today how those people can be your biggest brand advocates, your executives and your employees out there on social and then in the media. Employees, on average, have about 10 times more connections than your brand's channels. So thinking about, especially like me, working at a mid-sized credit union, our social media isn't popping off, right? Like, we've got a decent amount of followers, but who's super excited about following their credit union on social media? People are excited about following their friends and family who might happen to work at my credit union, which can help expand that reach. Content shared by employees is also likely to get more engagement, 8 times more engagement, than content that's shared out on brand channels. And when we think about it, thinking about maybe putting yourself in your own lens right now, I kind of did this and did a little comparison with myself as I put this slide together. But in a digital world, people are having somewhere around 2,000 connections when you put all of those channels together. So what this really looks like visually is, let's say you as a marketing leader went out and coached your employees to begin to share your brand story through their channels, and you brought in 10 people and made those kind of your advocates that went out and talked about it. That could be 20,000 people that you could reach without even having to pay a dime, just by empowering those employees. Maybe it's 50 people. That's 100,000 more connections you could make. Say it's 100 people. There's another 200,000 connections. Or maybe you work for a large organization where you've got 500 employees. You could go out there and reach 1 million more people than your brand's channel. So we now know kind of the story here. We're going to talk about how we leverage those connections to amplify our brand today. So I told you that I was a group fitness coach. I told you that I had some great mentorship that taught me about the how. But now I get to mentor many of our employees at Financial Center. So my day job is managing brand communications and strategy for Financial Center, and we are a statewide credit union in Indiana, founded in military roots, and now we serve several different communities in our area with about 10 branches. So I spend a lot of my time working with our employees and our executive teams to help them kind of hone in their voice and tell our story more effectively. So back to where we started. Putting your hat back on as we start to dive into some real-life examples. People know what to say. Our role over the next 20 minutes now is to show them how to say it. We're first going to talk about executives, and I think that that's kind of a separate group of people that you can empower in different ways to share your story on social or in PR. And then we'll talk a little bit about your employees and how they can share on social and some strategies for your website. So, diving into executives. I found that the best place to start in social with executives is LinkedIn. It's a pretty comfortable place for most of those people. So I want to talk to you about content hooks first. This is something I started doing a while back. And many times, people want to go out and tell your story, but they may not know where to start. And especially if you're not a marketer, you're not a writer, or maybe you're really not comfortable on social media at all, a blank sheet of paper is the most intimidating part, right? You tell them to go talk about something, but you don't give them any direction on how to do it, and then nothing happens. So what I started doing is putting some content hooks together, and I'm using this one as an example. We recently announced a partnership with Tredulity, which is an AI translation platform. Super cool, actually. In all of our branches, we have iPads at the teller stations, but they can press and hold and speak in their native language, and we can have a natural conversation with the employees. So this is something worth sharing and talking about. We were the first credit union in the United States to roll out their platform. So instead of sending out the press release and just blasting it to everybody that I know or posting it on our brand channel, instead I started creating hooks for some of our executive team to share. And you can see some different examples here, thinking about the lens of what they manage, what they care about, what their followers might care about. For instance, our VP of People, we said, people are the heartbeat of our business. When our employees and members can confidently communicate, we're all better. With our new translation partnership, and then I gave her some talking points and let her finish filling in the blanks. And it took me I don't know, 30, 40 minutes to go through 10 or 15 executives and think through what lens might resonate with their followers and sound really human for them. So as you think about sharing news, maybe instead of just giving them the press release or the link to include, also think about some of the ways that you might be able to guide them and how to tell the story in a way that's really human to them. Another thing I want to dive into are what I've called ownable series. And about 2 years ago, our CEO, his name's Cam Mingus, came to me and said, hey, he's a newer CEO in the industry at that time, and he really wanted to elevate his personal brand. And this was to put himself out there for potential partnerships in the future, to network with his peers, and to build up a reputation as a strong employer in the community as people went out and maybe applied for jobs at our credit union. And I sat down with him and we talked through, well, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And we dove into his love for coffee. And I think this was a really important insight for me as I started to think about helping people build those personal brands. We were able to find that Cam loved a couple of things. He woke up and drank an obscene amount of coffee every day, and he loved having conversations with people. So we married these two things together to create this series for him that's now out on social media. What this series has really done is it's used to showcase our brand and our culture out on his owned channel. It's boosted credibility for our employees because he's putting himself out there and setting the example, and for partnerships. And it's led to so many industry connections and different opportunities like being invited onto podcasts and things simply by having that strong personal brand out online. Why it's really worked, I believe, for us is because we weren't super rigid with it when we rolled it out for him. We didn't know exactly how this was going to go, so we just dove into it. And we've used all kinds of mixed media throughout our time. We've written articles of conversations that he's had. We've shared videos and recorded audio clips of different people he's invited in for coffee. But it always falls under this same theme of, I'm Cam, I love coffee, and I love having conversations. And kind of by giving that framework, it's helped him be a little more human and also given him a box to work within as he goes out and shares on his personal social media. It's a great blend of his personal brand and his professional brand, and it's been so fun to get to support him through that. Finally, on the executive side, for paid and earned PR, I know we've talked about PR a couple times today, but it's tempting to think of PR as just, I'm going to blast out everybody in my email inbox, every press release that I have. And I will be honest, whenever I started working in this industry many years ago at this point, I guess, that's exactly what I would do. But today I've really found that there's lots of opportunities that you might just pay a little bit for, but they can really grow your brand. So I want to give you a couple examples of things that we've done that have worked really well for us. Back home, there's a show called Indie Now. It's a lifestyle segment on our local Fox 59 channel. And usually when we go on there, the person before us is like, I don't know, a dog whisperer or a magician, or I'm just trying to give you like the vibe of the show. And so we were like, hey, we want to come on and talk about banking, which didn't really match the energy of the show. So instead, we kind of reimagined what that was going to look like. This is a paid media placement, but it's been so great for us because, the people at home watching honestly don't know that it's a paid media segment, and we just keep that a little bit of a secret. So I guess you guys got to look behind the scenes today. But we've established it as a regular monthly series, and we built these interactive segments inspired by like the things you see on Ellen or the Today Show. So we play super fun games every month, and it's created this shareable content for us where we know that it's paid advertising, but every month our executive team can go out and share, hey, look, we were on Indie Now this morning, and it's been a great investment for us. And this recurring banter that we've built with the hosts is fun because it wasn't a one and done kind of opportunity. We come back every month. They know there's going to be a new game. It's seeing what we're up to. And we've got to bring in so many of our executive voices. And it's been a great way for us to amplify our voice in the community and then reuse that content through lots of channels. Beyond that, the thing that I feel like I've learned the most about media pitches is basically becoming friends with writers and doing their job for them. So when it comes to that, right, writers at these companies, whether it's the industry or in your community, quite simply, they're like the rest of us. Like, wouldn't you love for your job to be easier? I would. And if you can give them the content that they need or support them in things they're already trying to do, you're so much more likely to get where you want to go. And I've developed some good relationships with many industry people and gotten to the point where they've started to come to me for content that I can then source from our executive team and their voices to, be quoted in an article or these kind of things. But that's because I've consistently followed up with these people and asked them, hey, what kind of stories are you working on? What kind of content do you need? And then tailored what I deliver to them with that focus, so they're much more likely to use it. It's been wonderful since we've built some of those stronger relationships. So those are a couple of ways your executive team may be able to go out and amplify your brand's voice. But now I want to talk about your employees, because there's likely a lot more of your employees than there are executives, right? So a couple of things you might be able to do there. At my previous job, we created a content library. I worked for another large credit union before transitioning to where I'm at now. We built a content library, and this was where we started to let the reins off the brand a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit of a control freak in my real life and in my brand management life. So this was a little scary at first when we decided, hey, we're gonna let our employees go out and on their own Facebook talk about us and see what happens. And what happens actually has been really good for us. So I can't lie and say there haven't been things where I'm like, maybe not what I would have done, but for the most part, it has been so great to see our reach become more authentic by giving them some direction, but then some autonomy on the other side. So, for example, just a few examples of the kinds of things that we've given them. We built out all kinds of different social media graphics, because I don't know about you, but I get help star tickets all the time of, can you make this thing for me? So we just made lots and lots of general things. We know we're always hiring for people, so we made a whole library for hiring managers. We know our mortgage loan officers are out there doing deals and closing every day, so we built that so they could tell some of those stories. We know that branch managers and our community development team are out there going to events and activations they may want to invite their followers to. And so those are some of the groups that you may think about using this kind of content for. The people that are interacting directly with your members or customers, that's where we've seen a lot of success. So where to start right now if your heart rate's a little bit higher than it was 2 minutes ago when I told you to let go of your brand and then just give the reins to somebody that doesn't know anything about social media? Take a deep breath. That's what I had to do. And then starting with selecting some internal champions was great for us. Maybe thinking through that list that I just put up, maybe you pick a branch manager and a mortgage loan originator and a few people to kind of beta test this concept with. And the best thing that we ever did when we rolled this out was started with training. You couldn't even get access to the library until you had been through the in-person training and were forced to learn about what those standards were. It looks different for everybody, but for us, there was training you can't say anything about a rate. You can't say anything about a fee. You can't say anything with a disclosure. You need to tag us every time. You need to go on, if you're gonna link anything, it needs to go directly to our website, not anywhere else. So some of these things, you and the compliance team and your team have to figure out what's the comfort level that works for you. But this kind of training, the last thing that we told them is, hey, we know realistically everybody's not going to get this right. So we want to tell you that we are going to be a coach and mentor for you as we start to see this out there. And there's likely going to come times that maybe we want you to take something down, or maybe we want you to edit something, or maybe we would just want to give you some advice on how to do it in the future. But we set that expectation that was our role in the process, and that was great, so that we felt a little more open to be able to go have that conversation with them. Another way that we've gotten a lot of success, or we had a lot of success over at my last job, was with sharing positive examples. So during our town halls and in our monthly newsletter, we would put screenshots out of people that did this well so that they could kind of imply, this is the right way to do it. And that was a great way to also encourage employee interaction. This is where we started to see communities of our employees out on social media. They're liking it. You like and comment on mine, I'll like and comment on yours kind of deal, which of course helped boost the reach of those posts. We require anything to be tagged, so we get an immediate notification when something's out there, and we can take a quick look to make sure it's within brand guides, and then always coaching for improvement. The last thing I want to mention is placing some of your bankers or your member or customer-facing staff out there. We talked a lot today about ways that other people can go and amplify your brand, right? You let your executives and let your employees talk. But what we haven't talked about is how you can also amplify those people in your communications as the marketing team. So another case study from the previous company that I worked for, we were able to showcase our customer-facing employees and give out the direct contact information of them, which ended up allowing our consumers to interact with real people more often, positioning our employees as experts and building these kind of lasting and trusted relationships. Where we did that was primarily on the website. So this is an example screenshot that's out there on the website even today. And we would look at a few different factors of how people were interacting with the website. So their geographic location, how they got onto the website. This credit union is a select employer-based credit union, so works through employer partnerships. So we could see on the back end if they were entering the website through a landing page from their employer. And all of this allowed us to cookie their experience with who was most likely to be the person that could help them. And of course, it's not always going to be right with those kind of cooking, that kind of cooking. But for so many, we were able to serve them a real human being with every product or service alongside of it. So the other thing that we did that I think helped so much is we told them what they could talk to someone about. It's kind of like nobody really wants to go to the doctor, especially a new doctor. Like, it feels awkward. I don't think anybody really wants to call a banker and be like, I have credit problems, right? So we kind of told them some of those things so that they had the opportunity to be able to say, hey, I got your info on the website, and I saw that you can do a credit review, and could we talk? So helping break down some of that barrier. And the other thing we did was then followed them through the website experience with that same cookieing. So you know how like on most websites there's a little chat bot that follows like, do you have a question? And you don't want to talk to it. Well, instead we followed them with a real person through the experience. So every time they visited a page, that person was there as a real life resource that they could call or email or schedule an appointment with. So that's kind of a way that you, as marketers, could place your employees out there. To be real, I think it's a little bit of give and take of what we talked about today. You're going out and asking your executive team and your employees to go share your content, to be your brand advocates, to follow these guidelines. But how are you also giving back to them by amplifying their personas out there and helping them get appointments and conversations and meetings and all of those things that are important, especially for people in the commission-based kind of roles. So a lot of things just happened over the last 20 minutes, and I just want to kind of cover where I think we could go next. And the first thing, taking a big deep breath where we were at a minute ago, it's kind of like finding your comfort level. I gave you a few different examples of things that have worked well for me. That doesn't mean that these things are going to work well for you. There's no guarantees. These are just some examples of things that I've found success with in my experience. But you've got to find what works well for you. Maybe letting the reins off of your brand at the level that I felt comfortable doing isn't something that you're able to do. But maybe letting the reins off for your executive team only, or your CEO to go out and start speaking as your brand in some of these communications is your comfort level. Or maybe there's just 10 people that you want to be those brand advocates going out and speaking on your behalf. So thinking about that. What I just mentioned, kind of creating opportunities for people. As marketers, we have the ability to go out and source ways that we can place the people. Like we mentioned with PR and those kind of opportunities, we can go out and help them find places to make their voice heard, right? Help them find a podcast to be on, help them find an article to be cited in, these kind of things. So as marketers, it's so exciting to get to go to those people and say, hey, I've got a great opportunity and I would love for you to represent our brand as the human voice behind it. And finally, coaching to refine messages. I mentioned earlier that we started with that in many of our trainings, that hey, while we're letting loose a little bit of our brand control, we're also still going to be here as your coaches and mentors, watching what you're doing and giving you guidance to make it even better in the future. So our role as marketing leaders, as we mentioned at the beginning, is a little bit less about the what and a little bit more about the how people can communicate. I did put together, there's a bunch of other examples I wanted to give you, but frankly, I didn't have enough time. So I put together a few guides out there on my website, and there's a bunch of prompts within them. So if you're thinking about, starting anything with your executive team or your employees, there's a whole guide out there of different prompts that you might give them, questions you might ask them that could get them started talking, and then a couple more guides that dive deeper into some of the stuff that we talked about here. So I hope you'll go back and coach and mentor your teams to elevate your human voices. It doesn't always have to be about buying something new or flashy. It might be the people that are sitting right in your offices that could help you amplify your voices a little more. So thanks for hanging out with me. Have a great day. Enjoy. Safe travels home.